Hank grappled with the notion of maintaining his legacy while the values he upheld began to falter. Everything he had fought for teetered on the edge. How could he protect the family without losing it? As days marched on, whispers of scandal grew louder, and Emily was torn. If she spoke out, would she shatter her father's career, or would she find her own voice, breaking free from the smothering expectations? The stakes escalated with a single encounter. A single mother pleading for help haunted her. The reality of injustice coiled like a serpent around her heart, pushing her to speak up, to take a stand. But Hank found himself spiraling, sleepless nights filled with doubts echoing his father's lessons of integrity and honor. When an unexpected letter arrived from the bank's parent company warning of dire repercussions, tension reached a breaking point. Father and daughter stood in silence, emotions swirling like a tempest. Both faced a choice that could irrevocably alter their bond. What lay ahead would alter their lives forever, creating an irreparable fracture or a bridge toward understanding. Would love be enough to guide them through the impending storm? The hours dragged on, ensnaring Hank in a fog of uncertainty that thickened with every tick of the clock. The walls of the bank felt oppressive, whispering reminders of expectations and failures past. Was this how it felt to look down a precipice, paralyzed by the fear of falling? The weight of his father's legacy felt heavier now, its gold-plated veneer casting shadows over the authenticity he yearned to achieve. He closed his office door, letting the silence envelop him, yet the darkness lurked within. Across town, Emily found herself sitting on a park bench, the air heavy with the scent of overripe summer. Each breath was weighted by the burden she carried, the knowledge of the injustice brewing within the bank. The single mother's desperate plea echoed in her mind, every word carving deeper into her conscience. What good is a legacy if its foundation is corruption, she asked herself, gnawing on the edges of doubt. The choice lay before her, silence and compliance, or courage and truth. Picking up her phone, she hesitated, her fingers hovering above the screen. Should she confront her father directly? As much as she craved that connection, it was becoming painfully clear that to be faithful to her own values, she would have to confront the very person she loved most. Just then, her phone buzzed with an incoming text from her friend, Tom, a local journalist. He sensed the unease in her voice during their last call. "Emily, I hear whispers at the diner. Something's brewing at the bank. Want to come by later?" She bit her lip, torn between the safety of silence and the demand for justice. Meanwhile, Hank received a call from the bank's legal department, the weight of grim news crashing down. Tom's journalistic instincts had always been sharp, but today he seemed to sense not only her desperation, but also the gravity of their findings. She found herself reflecting on her father, a man she had idolized and feared. The weight of their lineage pressed heavily on her shoulders. Was she to follow in his honorable footsteps or carve a new path? With each passing second, the answer became clearer. At the diner, a haunting silence enveloped the corner booth where Tom awaited. They exchanged glances, each holding a measure of anticipation mixed with dread. What could they uncover that would shift the balance of power at the bank? The truth glimmered like a shard of glass, dangerous, beautiful, but sharp enough to draw blood. Meanwhile, Hank stepped into his office, grappling with the rising tide of anxiety. Deciding to confront the legal implications head-on, he summoned his team for an emergency meeting. Clarity began to penetrate his fog. He would not merely mitigate the fallout, but reveal the truth, no matter how hard it might be. His father had always held moral standing in high regard, a legacy Hank aimed to honor. Yet would revealing the truth mean sacrificing his daughter's faith in him? The sterile conference room echoed with the sound of shuffling papers and murmurs of strategizing, but Hank felt out of sync. It was as if he were drowning amongst the voices, his own convictions tangled in a web of confusion. He realized that there was more to this storm brewing than just professional integrity. It was a question of familial loyalty and personal accountability. Emily returned home from the diner, her heart pounding. The decision loomed large as she dialed her father's number. Would this leap into the unknown bring them closer together or tear them apart? Uncertain phone calls carried the weight of their entwined lives through each hesitant ring. As she braced herself for the reckoning, Hank prepared for the confrontation with his own daughter, both unmoored by the tempest that had come to define their lives. The stakes were higher than either realized, and the moment of truth approached like a freight train barreling down the tracks. They had to confront each other. The time had come for both of them to face what lay tangled in their hearts. Would they find redemption and understanding, or would the truth shatter the remnants of trust that held them together? Hank stared blankly at the phone, the silence of the room amplifying every hesitant heartbeat. He felt his resolve waver, quaking under the weight of impending confrontation. Would he truly be able to face Emily? To pull the veil back on their reality was fraught with risk, yet failure seemed more perilous. His team had rapidly formulated a plan, but he found himself distracted. He couldn't shake off the feeling that he stood at a precipice, both in his professional sphere and personal life. Would the actions he took today repair the fractured bond with his daughter, or would they drive a wedge even deeper? The sound of his team's discussions fell away as he inwardly wrestled with the moral implications of secrecy, guilt surging like a tidal wave. Outside, clouds gathered, mirroring his internal storm as he distanced himself from the chaotic voices in the conference room. He grabbed his jacket, the fabric feeling coarse against his skin. A small act of rebellion against his own fears compelled him to take a walk, a necessity he convinced himself would clear his head. The brisk air greeted him like an old friend, yet the world felt alien, as if it had shifted overnight without his notice. Walking past locals engaged in mundane chatter, Hank's mind churned with possibilities. He reflected on the man he had always endeavored to be versus the one he had become, someone caught in a mesh of expectations, both his own and those placed upon him. Each step nudged him toward reconciliation with not only Emily, but with his true self, the one who valued honesty and integrity above all. While he strolled, he considered the time he spent telling Emily stories about the bank, anecdotes steeped in pride and combined with cautionary tales. He had painted an almost mythic image of their family legacy, yet it had languished under the burden of unexamined truths. How had he allowed that narrative to distort their reality? The revelation seeped into him. Perhaps it was time to redefine who he was, not as someone burdened by familial legacy, but as a father yearning for connection. And then there was Emily. He had always seen her as the embodiment of his hopes, but never as someone capable of challenging tradition. As she dove deeper into her work, she was uncovering truths that could threaten him, yet he felt a pang of admiration. She was determined, brave enough to question what many would dare not, qualities he once thought his own. Back in the office, invigorated with a newfound vigor, Hank's heart steadied as he returned to the conference room, interrupted by a call. The display read Emily. The air thickened, desperation clawing at him as he answered, emotions poised for a tumultuous exchange. "Dad," her voice trembled yet held a strength he hadn't expected. "Okay, where are you?" "I'm at the diner," she responded, a cautious hesitation coloring her tone. I don't know how to say this, but I have questions, and I need answers from you now." He inhaled sharply, aware that this could spiral catastrophically, but he also realized it was exactly the moment he had been preparing for. "Let's meet. I'll be there in 15 minutes, he answered, a steely resolve taking root. As he hung up, anticipation coursed through him. It was time to face the truth together, to dismantle the barriers they had unknowingly built. The moment of honesty awaited them, a miraculous thread woven from shared history and unspoken fears. But even as he grabbed his keys, another thought flickered ominously through his mind. What if their truths weren't aligned? What if one of them was about to discover the other's betrayal? With that bitter uncertainty looming over him, Hank stepped into the unknown, compelled by the hope that perhaps understanding could be forged from pain. Could they really transcend this impending fracture, or was this confrontation merely the beginning of an unending chasm? Hank navigated the streets with an urgency that veiled his deeper anxieties. Each step felt weighted by the gravity of their impending conversation. As he approached the diner, the familiar neon light cast an eerie glow, illuminating the shadows he had harbored for too long. Inside, the aroma of coffee and grilled sandwiches wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the heavy fog in his mind. He spotted Emily at a corner booth, her fingers nervously tapping against the laminated menu. In that moment, the familiar contours of her face appeared both comforting and foreign. Could his daughter be ready to unearth the layers of truth he had avoided for years? As he slid into the booth, the gravity of the moment settled between them. "Hey," he began, searching for the right words and finding only silence. "Hi," Emily replied, lifting her gaze to meet his. The vulnerability in her eyes twisted his gut. "I don't know how to start." "Neither do I," Hank admitted, the rawness of their situation striking him. "But we need to talk. No more half-truths." Emily nodded, her expression shifting as she prepared. "I've been digging into the bank's records, things that didn't fit the narrative you shared. We have a family legacy, yes, but it seems like it's built on something more shaky than I realized." The words landed like stones. Hank's heart raced as he realized the extent of her discoveries. His daughter was treading on ground he had long sought to keep sacred, fraught with the potential for disillusionment. "What did you find?" he asked, hoping she wouldn't plunge into a pool of unfiltered accusations. "I discovered discrepancies in the funds, under-the-table deals, things that, well, they don't feel right. You always taught me to pursue honesty and integrity. Why was I shielded from this?" Her words were like arrows piercing through his defenses. Hank took a slow breath, enveloping himself in an air of courage he barely felt. "Emily, I wanted to protect you from the ugliness of our world. It's complicated, and trust me, I'm not proud of everything." As he spoke, he felt the weight of years slip from his shoulders. Perhaps this moment was not just a confrontation, it was a reckoning for himself, a breaking of the cycle rooted in deceit. "But what you're uncovering, it's part of a larger picture," he continued. "Some things we've built our lives on are problematic, and I need to face that." With each word, Hank felt the knot in his stomach begin to unravel. It wasn't merely about him or the secrets he'd kept. It was about providing Emily the clarity she deserved to navigate her own path. "I need more than words, Dad," she pressed, her voice steady. "I need to know if you're willing to confront these truths with me. Would you back me up if I decided to expose this?" The question hung between them like a cloud, heavy and pressing. Hank understood the stakes. It was not just his past, it was also Emily's future. "If it means standing up for what's right, then yes," he said, surprising himself with the conviction he felt. "You deserve to know what's real and to not be burdened by the shadows." Emily's expression brightened, not entirely by relief, but a glimmer of trust that slowly began to weave back into their father-daughter bond. "Then let's work together. I don't want to do this without you." In that instant, he realized their confrontation was changing the threads of their relationship. It fueled his determination to evolve, both as a father and a man willing to embrace his faults. For the first time, the prospect of vulnerability felt less like a curse and more like an opportunity for growth. As they laid plans to unravel the past, Hank's thoughts shifted towards the future. Could they truly navigate these treacherous waters together? What further revelations awaited them in their quest for transparency? The diner's door swung open, a gust of wind bringing a chill that momentarily disrupted their contemplation. a familiar figure stepped inside, causing Hank's heart to race anew. Something told him that limited time remained before the truth became infinitely more complex. "Dad," Emily said, her voice tinged with unease. "Who was that?" Hank turned, the weight of uncertainty settling back over him as he braced for the unexpected. As the door swung shut behind the newcomer, Hank felt the air shift, thickening with anticipation. The figure moved closer, and recognition struck with a brutal clarity. Tom, a former partner whose enthusiastic charm masked a dangerous ambition. The years had not dulled Tom's presence. He still carried himself with an unsettling confidence that made Hank's skin crawl. This was precisely the person he had hoped to keep at bay, a ghost from his professional past offering no solace. "Tom," Hank greeted, his voice taut. The sound felt foreign, empty, as if he were attempting to revive something long dead. Emily's hand instinctively clutched his, a small gesture of solidarity in the face of uncertainty. "Hey, Hank, didn't expect to see you here," Tom said, his gaze flitting from Hank to Emily, a calculating smile materializing on his lips. "And you've brought—" "Emily," she interjected, cutting him off. Her forthrightness surprised Hank, and he felt a flicker of pride mixed with his anxiety. Right. Remember our little project?" "A shame it fell through, but it looks like you found something worth fighting for," Tom replied, sarcasm lacing his words as he cornered their booth. "Isn't that cute, a father-daughter team? How's that financial legacy of yours?" Hank glanced at Emily, noting the tension tightening her jaw. He knew this was about to become more than just a social encounter. The environment was charged with unresolved conflict and unspoken truths. "Why are you really here, Tom?" Hank asked, the question heavy with accusation. He wondered if Tom sensed the precarious nature of their conversation, hovering on the brink of disaster. Tom shrugged, his facade slipping momentarily. "Just thought I'd check in on some old business, see where we stand. You always were good at burying the past, but sometimes it digs itself back up." The implication hung in the air. It struck Hank painfully. Every choice he made to shield Emily had created these fissures, paths that could lead to nothing but disaster if not handled carefully. He turned to Emily, her heightened awareness sharp. It struck him then, this was a moment they could either seize or squander. "Emily and I are separate from your business dealings now, Tom," Hank affirmed, firming his resolve in the face of this looming confrontation. It was time to confront the dark history that had shadowed their lives. "What you did to us, it doesn't define us anymore." "Is that so?" Tom leaned in, an arrogant glint in his eyes. "Well, just remember that some doors, once opened, can't be closed again." There was a threat buried in his tone, a reminder of all that Hank had tried to escape. Hank's heart pounded against his ribs, but he focused on Emily, who was now observing the exchange with sharper clarity. "We deserve transparency, not just between ourselves, but with everyone who crossed that line," she stated, her voice steely with a clarity born from the revelations of their previous conversation. Suddenly, an idea sparked in Hank's mind, blurring the line of fear and determination within him. Maybe they could channel this confrontation into something constructive, a way to aid both his and Emily's quest for truth. "Let's discuss those discrepancies you mentioned earlier," Hank proposed, turning the focus back to the records Emily had uncovered. "What do you know about your dealings at the bank, Tom?" Tom smirked, but the glimmer in his eyes spoke of uncertainty. It was energy Hank had not seen in years, a memory of the naivety once present in their partnership. The confrontation that loomed ahead felt daunting, yet invigorating. This was no longer just a matter of uncovering the past. This was about channeling their collective determination, Hank's protective instincts coalescing with Emily's thirst for justice. It was a chance for reinvention, a path to reclaim what had been taken from them. As the ambient noise of the diner faded into the background, Hank felt the tides of their fate shifting. The journey ahead promised challenges that would test their bond, their resolve, and themselves. They were no longer primarily victims, but active participants in shaping their destiny. "Let's get started then," he breathed out, brandishing a renewed sense of purpose. The moment of truth was nigh, and they were ready to confront whatever lay ahead. "Absolutely," Emily agreed, the strength of their new alliance shimmering in her eyes. But even as the exhilaration filled him, a cold thread of doubt entwined with the prospect of what revealing those truths might unleash. Hank could not shake the twinge of fear that this path, laced with potential discovery and betrayal, might lead them both into a tempest they were wholly unprepared for. "Are we sure this is the right step to take?" he pondered, a flash of vulnerability creeping in as he glanced at Emily. "Whatever it takes to make things right," she replied, her resolve unshakable. Just then, a shadow loomed at the periphery of their exchange. From across the diner, another figure watched them, someone whose presence would mingle fear with audacity. The next chapter of this unraveling saga awaited, filled with uncertainties threatening to overturn everything they had just begun to reclaim. Hank's thoughts raced as he locked eyes with Tom, whose smug expression seemed to revel in the tension filling the air. His mind was a knot of worry and adrenaline. This confrontation was steps away from unearthing ghosts he had buried for too long, but the burgeoning alliance with Emily ignited a flicker of hope. They were standing at a precipice, and the choices they made now could either anchor them or push them into the unfathomable depths of betrayal. "Are we sure this is the right step to take?" he pondered, a flash of vulnerability creeping in as he glanced at Emily. "Whatever it takes to make things right," she replied, her resolve unshakable. Just then, a shadow loomed at the periphery of their exchange. From across the diner, another figure watched them, someone whose presence would mingle fear with audacity. The next chapter of this unraveling saga awaited, filled with uncertainties threatening to overturn everything they had just begun to reclaim. Hank's thoughts raced as he locked eyes with Tom, whose smug expression seemed to revel in the tension filling the air. His mind was a knot of worry and adrenaline. This confrontation was steps away from unearthing ghosts he had buried for too long, but the burgeoning alliance with Emily ignited a flicker of hope. They were standing at a precipice, and the choices they made now could either anchor them or push them into the unfathomable depths of betrayal. "Let's start with the inconsistencies in the bank records you talked about," Hank prompted, feeling the weight of Emily's presence beside him, grounding him. He needed to meet Tom's cunning head-on, transforming fear into purpose. "You've been misleading with your statements, haven't you?" Tom feigned surprise, leaning back with his arms crossed, a master of diversion. "Misleading, Hank? That sounds like a harsh judgment coming from someone who's out of the game. Maybe you've just lost your touch." With every taunt, Hank could feel the tightening grip of his past on him. Tom's knowing arrogance was a poison that lingered, but as he glanced at Emily, firmly holding his hand, that poison became invigorating. "We're not here to debate semantics. Numbers don't lie, Tom. Show us what you've been hiding, if you're being honest." If he aimed to unveil Tom's deceptive tactics, he had to lay it all out in the open. The words came easier now, laced with the urgency of their situation. Silence hung thick, each second stretching as Tom shifted, his confidence flickering. There was vulnerability within his bravado, reminiscent of a time when Hank had overlooked the shadows lurking in Tom's ambition. "I suggest you tread carefully, Hank." "You're not in a position to dictate terms," Tom scoffed, but there was a tremor in his voice, a hint, perhaps, that he too recognized the precarious nature of power dynamics shifting. "Is that a threat?" Emily's voice sliced through the tension, vibrant and unyielding. Hank marveled at her strength, a reflection of what he hoped to instill in her. She wouldn't stand down. "This isn't about intimidation anymore. You've crossed a line that affects our entire future." The implications of their confrontation were becoming clear. Hank stood alongside Emily, side by side, not just as partners and family, but in a fight. "What do you really want, Tom?" Hank pressed, feeling a surge of assertiveness well up within him. "You can't manipulate us with your old tricks. We've evolved. You really think you can confront the past and walk away unscathed?" Tom sneered, a trace of disbelief curling his lips. "That's the marks of a man trapped by nostalgia. You can't change the past, Hank." It was Tom's admission, buried within sarcasm, that acted as the catalyst. Hank felt a rush, a determination sparking into conviction. No longer was he merely a passive victim shaped by past choices. He was taking hold of his narrative. "But we can change how the past shapes our future." Suddenly, a realization struck him, as if the air thickened with new purpose. Moments like these were fleeting, and to protect Emily, to empower her, he needed to seize this opportunity, not just for justice, but for their collective growth. Perhaps confronting Tom would dismantle the limits he had placed on himself as well. "Let's cut to the chase," Hank said, leaning closer, focusing on Tom's unease. "You know the risks. We have records. We'll bring this to the authorities if we have to. But if you work with us, maybe we can come to an agreement that protects both of our futures." For a split second, Tom's facade wavered. It was a glimmer, a fracture in his cool demeanor, swirling Hank's confidence with uncertainty. Could Tom be reasoned with, or was he too entrenched in his chaos? The stakes had shifted once again, and they were now wrapped in a dangerous negotiation that could unravel completely. "Don't think you can play me, Hank. I hold the cards here." Tom's voice bristled, but the tremble underneath spoke volumes. Hank noticed the shadow from the far side of the diner draw closer, a new figure paralleling the charged exchange. All the air seemed to drain from the room, setting the stage for whatever maneuvering was to unfold next. Beware. Sometimes it's not the cards that matter, but who's holding them. With that, uncertainty gripped Hank again, revealing the vulnerabilities he had thought he could conquer. As this new player loomed nearer, fear coiled tighter within his chest, juxtaposed with flickers of growth and responsibility. He felt it then. The delicate balance between truth and facade was collapsing, demanding every ounce of resilience he had left to navigate the next move. What lay before them was not just a confrontation, but an impending truth that could either shatter their precarious alliance or solidify their bond. Would Hank and Emily fortify their connection against the impending storm, or would they fall victim to the very fears they aimed to conquer? As the mysterious figure approached, uncertainty merged with an invitation for transformation. They were at the threshold of something far bigger than themselves, poised to reshape everything they knew about resilience and trust. Hank's heart raced as the figure emerged from the shadows, bold and familiar. It was Laura, his estranged sister. She had once been a confidant, the sister he could count on, but time and choices had marred their relationship, drawing painful lines of division. Her sudden appearance injected confusion into the already tense atmosphere. Was she a harbinger of trouble, or could she be the ally he desperately needed? "Laura?" Hank's voice trembled, struggling to comprehend how their family ties could materialize in this high-stakes moment. He had not seen her since the fallout years ago, their dispute buried beneath layers of resentment and unspoken words. What had brought her here? "Surprised to see me?" Laura shot back, her tone a mix of defiance and vulnerability. She held Hank's gaze, revealing a mixture of loyalty and resentment that hinted at a history both rich and tragic. Hank's mind raced through memories, a shared childhood, moments thick with laughter, and nights overwhelmed by silence after the rift. "We're in the middle of something important," Tom interjected, a spider weaving himself back into the web of control he sought to maintain. "You should walk away while you still can, Laura." But Laura remained sturdy, absorbing Tom's venomous words. Hank could see she was here to support him, but uncertainty clouded her resolve. It was a confrontation that demanded immediate clarity. It was not just about the past, but about forging a future. "Why are you here, Laura?" Hank pressed, the tension snaking between the three of them. "What do you want?" "I want to help you," she said, her voice steadier now. "I've seen what he's capable of. I can get you the documents, Hank. Everything you need to prove Tom's manipulations." The air thickened with a dizzying amalgamation of emotions. Hope surged within him, a powerful counterpoint to the years of silence between them. But could he trust her? Could he afford to lower his guard, risking everything to rely on a sister he thought he had lost? "Why should I believe you?" Hank's skepticism emerged, rising from the depths of pain and betrayal that marked their last encounters. It was a protective instinct, a shield born from past wounds. Laura took a step forward, the weight of both regret and conviction bearing down on her. "Because I've watched you struggle. I didn't support you when you needed me the most, and for that, I'm sorry. The past can't be changed, but I can help you change your future." As she spoke, Hank could feel the edges of his hardened heart soften. Amidst the chaos, the flickering flame of family began to rekindle. Perhaps reconciling their fractured history could be the strength they all needed to navigate this treacherous confrontation. Turning to Emily, Hank saw her face bathed in the glow of unwavering support, a reminder that he was not alone in this effort for redemption. "We need to face Tom together," he stated resolutely, addressing both of the women in his life who stood against the dark. "Our strength doesn't come from battling alone, it's in togetherness." Tom's demeanor had shifted, and Hank noticed the shifting power dynamics play out before him. A simmering fury intermingled with uncertainty clouded Tom's notorious confidence. This was a new terrain, and Hank felt the power of emerging resilience wash over him. "I see you've decided to play the family card," Tom sneered, but the bravado was faltering, revealing cracks in his cunning armor as he grasped at the threads of control. "Family doesn't play games, Tom. We fight for one another," Hank declared, feeling the conviction build into a fierce wave. "We have the right to reclaim who we were meant to be." As he took a breath, images of self-doubt clashed with visions of a future rooted in hope. Would he find the courage to solidify not just a partnership with Emily, but also re-establish the fragile ties with Laura? The path forward revealed itself, a path fraught with risks, but glimmering with the promise of healing. Tom's eyes held menace, but within that gaze, Hank detected the trepidation of a man cornered, outnumbered by the very relationships he sought to exploit. "Don't underestimate the bond of family, Tom," Hank warned, sensing a pivotal shift in the moment. "This time, we're ready to stand and face your threats together." As the reality of their alliances crystallized around him, Hank understood that confronting enemies would go hand in hand with confronting their pasts. But this time, unity wouldn't just offer protection, it could inspire transformation. In that instant, a silent pact grounded them, the renewed determination to bridge the gaps, owed not just to old loyalties, but to new beginnings. Yet just as victory began to shimmer on the horizon, a dark thought unfurled in the back of his mind. What secrets lay buried within Laura's intentions? Could her desire for reconciliation mask motives Hank was yet to uncover? As the tumultuous moment stretched forward, Hank sensed the impending clash echoing through his bones. True strength would demand every ounce of trust he possessed. With tension coiling like a spring ready to release, Hank braced for the unknown. Was he ready to not just face Tom, but also to confront the complexities of family and loyalty? The stakes were higher than ever, and it was time to unearth both the hidden truths and the potential for redemption that awaited them all. Hank's heart thudded in his chest, caught in a chaotic mix of hope and fear. The tension between them felt palpable, as if the air itself was charged. Laura stood unwavering, her eyes reflecting a depth of emotion that Hank had long forgotten. His instinct told him to be cautious, yet he felt drawn to the significance of her presence. Could she truly be trusted, or was this merely a guise for something deeper, more sinister? With a deep breath, Hank considered the options laid before him. The rift between him and Laura had been profound, anchored in years of hurt and misunderstanding. Yet they remained family, entwined with the shared history that could either be a source of strength or a weapon for their adversary. This was a new experience for Hank, to be standing face to face with a reminder of what he had lost, but also what he might regain. "Let's not waste time," he said, his voice gaining a steadiness that belied the storm brewing within. "What do we need to do to get this evidence?" "I have access to the files, but there's a catch," Laura replied, her demeanor shifting to a more guarded tone. "I need to get inside the office when Tom isn't there. It's going to take timing and a little ingenuity." Hank's mind raced as he calculated the possibilities. He could feel the outlines of a plan sketching themselves in the back of his consciousness. But could he involve Laura in it fully? "We can't take risks. If Tom finds out..." "He won't," Laura interrupted, her voice strong. "Not if we plan this right. I know how he operates, Hank. I know his patterns." A flicker of trust began to thaw Hank's defenses. She had shown up in the most critical moment of his life, just when he was struggling to find his footing amid the chaos. Yet how much of her knowledge was real, and how much formed from the consequences of their past? He struggled to navigate those thoughts, pitting his skepticism against the sliver of hope budding in his chest. As Emily watched their exchange, Hank saw the unease ripple across her face, a silent concern that tugged at him. He felt an obligation to maintain transparency, an instinct to bridge the gap not just with Laura, but also with his partner, who had been so unwavering by his side. "Emily, what do you think?" he asked, turning to her. She met his gaze, weighing her words. "It's risky, but if we can expose Tom's manipulation, it could turn everything around. I just hope you're both prepared for the fallout that might come from it." Hank nodded, her caution echoing in the recesses of his mind. The battle was not just against Tom. It seemed to encompass fighting doubts within himself and the complexities of family loyalty. The very challenge that lay ahead felt like a polishing stone against both hearts and characters. "Let's set a time to meet, work through the details," Laura suggested, her tone tinged with encouragement. Hank sensed a shift in their dynamic. The rigidity of distrust began to fracture, opening pathways to something different, a collaboration fueled by desperation, but also renewal. "Tomorrow evening, then," he decided, a plan forging itself into the fabric of his day. As they sketched out the preliminary details of their approach, Hank felt a push towards transformation, his resolve firming. He had always valued independence and self-reliance, but perhaps it was time to embrace vulnerability in order to move forward. Their past had struck hard at his sense of self, but this was an opportunity to reclaim not just the evidence against Tom, but pieces of his family too. Yet, just as they made strides towards the outline of a plan, Tom's shadow loomed large, and anxiety curled in Hank's stomach. What could he do to prepare? How could he harness the vulnerability of the moment and turn it into an advantage? Questions swirled like a tempest as the night ended, but one thing pressed against his thoughts. Was he ready for the truth Laura might reveal about herself, the depth of their connection, and the price of their estrangement? The darkness ahead was riddled with uncertainty, but Hank had ignited a flicker of determination. As he prepared for the morning, a stark realization settled in. This was a risky game of trust, and tomorrow would be the moment where lines would be redrawn irrevocably. As the dawn approached, he deliberated on his next steps, sensing the tumult of the day ahead. Could they truly confront Tom without losing themselves in the process? What pieces of his past were they willing to reclaim? Time was running out, and with it, Hank felt the anticipation crackle. Tomorrow would not just be an attempt to expose Tom's treachery, it would also be a moment where they might confront their own lingering shadows. The darkness ahead was riddled with uncertainty, but Hank had ignited a flicker of determination. As he prepared for the morning, a stark realization settled in. This was a risky game of trust, and tomorrow would be the moment where lines would be redrawn irrevocably. As the dawn approached, he deliberated on his next steps, sensing the tumult of the day ahead. Could they truly confront Tom without losing themselves in the process? What pieces of his past were they willing to reclaim? Time was running out, and with it, Hank felt the anticipation crackle. Tomorrow would not just be an attempt to expose Tom's treachery, it would also be a moment where they might confront their own lingering shadows. The sun rose over Maplewood, illuminating the roads that Hank had walked countless times, but today he felt a resolute energy coursing through him. It was a new dawn etched with the promise of clarity and decisive action. The plan had crystallized in his mind. He would confront Tom, unearth the truth, and restore both his integrity and his bond with Emily and Laura. This was no longer just about exposing deception. It was about fortifying the very foundation of their family through resilience and fortitude. Arriving at the bank, Hank felt an uncommon steadiness settle over him. Each stride toward his office carried the weight of purpose. The shadows of uncertainty had lifted, revealing the path ahead illuminated by transparency and justice. Emily and Laura joined him in the conference room, their expressions reflecting a mix of determination and anticipation. They had woven a plan that demanded both courage and commitment. "All right, we're going to go in prepared," Hank stated, his voice firm. He could sense that both women watched him, brimming with trust and expectation. "We'll present our findings methodically to the board and confront Tom directly with the evidence." Emily nodded, the flicker of confidence lighting up her features. "We've got to be our own advocates. If we stand united, we're stronger." Laura placed a hand on Hank's arm, their familial connection reaffirmed through shared resolve. "And remember, it's not just about confronting Tom, it's about reclaiming our narrative," she added. Hank's heart swelled with a mix of pride and gratitude. They were no longer inseparable figures trapped by the chains of the past. They were allies, ready to confront the shadows together and reshape their legacy. He could feel the synergy solidifying their mission. The boardroom loomed ahead, pressing against Hank's resolve as the tension stiffened the air. Yet fear had been vanquished by purpose, and he knew they were standing on the brink of a monumental transformation. When Tom sauntered into the room, his confidence radiated like a shield forged from deceit. Hank's breath caught briefly, but he anchored himself in the conviction that he and his family were prepared. This wasn't just a confrontation, it was the reclamation of their identities, of who they were beneath the tolerating shadows. "Tom," Hank began, feeling the weight of the words settle in the room's atmosphere. "We need to talk about the discrepancies in the bank's records." Tom's expression shifted, a predatory gleam veiling itself under a layer of casual indifference. "Discrepancies? That sounds serious, Hank. You couldn't possibly mean to accuse me. We've been in this together for years." Emily stepped forward, her voice surprisingly calm yet resolute. "Years built on deception and exploitation. We have evidence, Tom. You've preyed on vulnerable clients while masquerading as their protector." The gravity of her words hung in the air, wrapping around them like a force field that dispelled Tom's bravado. Anger flashed across his face, but Hank wasn't shaken. "We're done hiding the truth," he continued, his voice unwavering. "The integrity of the bank, my legacy, and our roles as family will no longer be compromised. This stops now." For the first time, Hank noted the flickers of uncertainty dancing in Tom's eyes. He had always been the puppeteer, his strings pulling Hank into the recesses of guilt and complicity. But now the tables had turned, the power dynamics shifted. Hank stepped closer, leaning into his resolve. "We're bringing this to the board, to the authorities if necessary. You've manipulated too many lives. It's time we restore faith in what this bank represents. Laura, Emily, and Hank stood united against the looming figure of Tom, three individuals bound by a common purpose, reclaiming their narrative. The very essence of family loyalty and truth emerged as the strongest weapon against deceit. Tom staggered under the weight of their unity, realization breaking through his calculated facade. "You think you can just come in here and dismantle everything we built?" he questioned, desperation leaking into his voice. "This is more than just numbers." But Hank stepped back, a wave of newfound confidence washing over him. "No, Tom, you built a legacy on lies, and it's coming to an end. Our integrity, our family, is worth more than any illusion of power you think you hold." The door swung open, and others from the board filtered in, drawn by the escalating tension. Hank sensed the shift as they began to register the simmering conflict unfolding. Emily, emboldened and self-assured, shared her findings with those gathered. The room crackled with murmurs of disbelief as documents laid bare Tom's transgressions came into view. Their voices rang with clarity, each narrative intertwining to form a shared understanding of what had been at stake. The power of truth pierced through the veil of deceit. As an institution, we owe it to our clients to uphold integrity and transparency, Hank declared, his voice steady and proud. Our family must lead this bank by the example of accountability. With every supportive nod from Emily and protective look from Laura, Hank felt the years of doubt recede. This was the moment he had worked tirelessly toward, a true reclamation of dignity and authenticity, not just for him, but for Emily and Laura too. The board's response was electric. Murmurs slid through the room as they began to process what lay ahead. Tom's once certain grip on the institution began to crumble, his bravado evaporating under the scrutiny of those he had deceived. As alarm pierced the silence, Hank found solace in the collective stance they had taken, revealing their transformed selves. This was not merely about justice. It was a profound achievement of growth, showcasing love and loyalty above past grievances. The waves of recognition began to crest as Hank realized he had stepped into a new role, not just as a protector, but as a fierce advocate for his family's values. Their bonds were not just mended, they became threads of strength woven together, an unbreakable fabric that showcased their transformation. In that crucial moment, Hank glimpsed the shimmering warmth of hope that enveloped them all. They were no longer individuals haunted by their pasts. They had emerged as a family, reclaiming their narratives and destined to foster authenticity across their lives moving forward. As the final negotiations unfurled, Hank leaned closer to Emily and Laura, courage pulsing in his veins. They stood together, and whatever the future held, they were prepared to meet it, united and stronger, worth fighting for. No longer stuck in the shadows, Hank's voice boomed with confidence. Together, we will build not just a bank, but a legacy founded on love, integrity, and courage. This was the moment he had strived for, the glimpse of affirmation that transformation was possible, transforming darkness into a beacon of hope, and moving from betrayal toward undeniable empowerment. Now was the time for action. If you found strength and inspiration in this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support by leaving a like, feeding the algorithm to spread these vital transformation stories. Don't wait even one more second. Comment below your thoughts on this riveting conclusion and share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful resolution. Let's reshape society through the triumphs of personal growth together.